Ready. Okay, it's called a village meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Additions, deletions, changes to the proposed agenda for this evening. Are there any?
There is one.
Okay.
Police chief requesting medical opt-out.
Can we make that item number 3, Andy? Okay with you? Okay. Stand it here. Okay, roll call.
President Schneider,
Present.
President Pro Tem Dyke, Councilmember Alec, Councilmember Kolka,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
Councilmember Glasser,
Present.
Councilmember Steffler.
Occasions, I don't believe we have any. Well, maybe this is an appropriate time. There was a communication that I received. You may have all seen it. There was an announcement from the governor's office that there's a $1.5 billion program called the 2023 RAISE, RAISE grant program. Is that something we're aware of and might be available, any funds available to us regarding that? Are you familiar with that?
Offhand, that's not ringing a bell with me.
Okay, it came out today or yesterday from the governor's office, and I get emails all the time from her office. But anyway, it's an application. It's time to submit applications, and I guess I can forward it to you. 1.5 billion is a lot of money for both rural and urban, and including local funds for local communities. I guess that was a communication. Okay. All right. So the regular meeting minutes from our December 6, 2022 minutes. I found nothing. Anybody have any questions, comments, corrections they want to make to those minutes? Okay, general fund, major streets, local streets, parks and recreation fund, downtown development authority fund, sewer fund, water fund, equipment fund, payroll register report, water report.
I'm just wondering if there should be a concern since we're down the last 2 months comparative to last year by several thousand gallons. And usually it's pretty even. So I was just wondering if we have any concerns with that, or is that being looked at? Because last year we were at 5,400 and this year we're at 49. And I understand that things dry up and stuff, but that's a pretty big drop. And last year in October we were at 55 and we're down to 51. And in September we were at 69. And this September I think was more wet, but we're down almost a lot. Or, so if you look at that, there's a consistency there. And in July, we were kind of like on track. In August, we were kind of on track, and then it went wham out.
Part of that was the result of the big water main break.
Okay.
And I don't know if this past month is a continuation of people not using as much water.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
we can certainly take
That
a
makes
double
sense.
double check, make
Yeah,
sure.
that does make sense. I had forgotten about that. Okay. That's one thing I just like to monitor.
Important issue, yeah, we do have to look at that, keep track of it.
Usage tends to go down once our rates increase, which is October when it happens, so.
Thank you.
Imagine that. DPW report. Wastewater treatment plant report. Police report, which is becoming a little more comprehensive each meeting, which is appreciated. Yeah, Construction Code Authority. Oh, I jumped over the OEO report. Anybody have any issues with that? Building permit report, AKA Construction Code Authority. Financial position report. And jump over for a second, DDA Director's Report, and jump back to something new, and I don't know if this is, and it's actually not listed in our consent agenda as an item to approve, but we have a November monthly update report from our clerk treasurer, which I thought was
I
very.
started doing that when you asked for more information from the department heads, so.
So is this something you plan to do regularly?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then it should be listed in our consent agenda, I would think,
Oh,
as an
okay.
item, which it was not, and,
Okay.
but I found it very helpful and useful.
Oh, thank you.
That was a real plus. And so, and then the interim director of DDA submitted her report, which is somewhat different format than had previously been presented. Entertain a motion.
Just two comments real quick.
Sure.
On Kim, your report is appreciated. The amount of detail, it kind of shows us, we already know all the things you do, but it gives us a deeper appreciation for everything that you do. The DDA director's report, I was impressed with a couple of things on that. A, how much she's been doing. B, that she kind of listed the hours she worked and why she worked them. And C, just some of the innovative stuff like getting the website updated, getting the emails collected for downtown businesses, that sort of thing. Those are all positive things that was impressive within the report. So I think the public should point out that those things have been going on and we're good to see. So much appreciated.
Since we're on that topic, just a couple of quickies from me relating to the DDA. One, the DDA board has adopted the meeting protocol, which is with modifications, so it meets the DDA requirements of what we have on the backside of our agenda of how to run a meeting. And they've adopted that.
Not to mention that too, because I saw that and her address that, and that's an important thing also.
And there have been significant interchanges between the DDA and village administration to have the village essentially act as the DDA's treasurer, so that we don't run into problems that we'd run into before, and working with the village, more of that collaboration, cooperation between the two. And I must say that in attending their meetings. We now have a united front. It's unfortunate the things that happened in the past certainly were legitimate to discuss, but there is no dissension at this point, and everybody's collaborating. So it appears to me that the DDA is so quite viable and will be a very productive organization for what I'm seeing so far, which I'm very appreciative because it's really important. And finally, their meetings are on YouTube. So all those things are a plus. Okay, so do we have a motion? This is the consent agenda. Motion made by President Pro Tem Dyke, supported by Councilmember Glasser, to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Objections? Unanimously approved by those members in attendance. Now it is time for public comment for any item on our regular agenda. Is there any public comment this evening? Being none. Regular agenda, this will be a tough one. 2023 meeting dates, which so yeah, so there's village council.
It's totally up to you.
I think in the past, we
I think
voted
we've
all
done
in one
both.
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't really see an issue with that because it's not something that has substantial concerns other than we simply know when the various bodies are going to meet. So is there any discussion regarding the meeting dates, concerns? If not, entertain a motion.
Meeting dates for the Elmont Coast Council, the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Park Board as presented.
Support that.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Dyke, supported by Councilmember Kalka, to approve the 2023 meeting dates for all of the governmental entities set forth therein. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Objections? Unanimously approved by those council members in attendance. Regular agenda item number 2, I-69 International Trade Corridor Representative Appointment. We need a representative. Did you want to run with that, David?
Yes, please. Very briefly, pertaining to the memo that was in your packet, the Village of Almont is a member of the International Trade Corridor. And unlike when I first became the village manager, and somebody called me shortly thereafter to tell me by virtue of my position that I was a member of the Lapeer Development Corporation, nobody ever contacted me to let me know that I was a member of this group as well. And as I mentioned in my memo, somewhere along the way, there was a clerical error as far as whoever identified the membership of the group, and somehow Almont Township was the designated representative community for a number of months, apparently. And so actually, Mr. Bowman was starting to get phone calls. How come you're not coming to the meetings? And it was like, I've never been a member of the group. And so Sam Moore helped clarify that issue. And I was invited to attend the meeting that occurred just earlier this month. And it was held in Flint. And this I-69 corridor, for those that are not familiar with it, because I've heard about it, but it really wasn't familiar with it, comprises of municipalities from 4 different counties along the I-69 corridor that are there for promoting economic development. And the group has had problems over the past year getting a quorum to even do any business. So they beat the bushes this past meeting to make sure they had a quorum, because there's a major project that's being undertaken in the city of St. Clair that that this organization is actually going to be the entity, the fiduciary for creating bonds for this major industrial project that's happening in St. Clair. And so they needed to have a quorum to be able to pass next year's budgets and also to have the presentation on this project so that 2 months from now, when they have a public hearing on this project and public notices have to go out in 4 different counties, because there's 4 different counties that are represented in this group. So you get into a pretty hefty publication notice to advise the world about this project, where there's going to be bonds issued for this major expansion of a Magna Corporation project that's located in St. Clair. And so, I need your folks' support to designate me as the representative. Mike Connors was the representative back during his tenure. Obviously, the word of mouth didn't get carried over to Ian Kempf and then ultimately to me to know that we were part of this group. And they meet on a bi-monthly basis. And their next meeting will be in February, and there'll be a major public hearing, and they need to have a quorum, and otherwise they can't approve the bonds or can't approve the project. So,
But, go ahead.
You get a chance, you're not gonna get put on 16 sacred boards like in Lapeer?
I happened to see Mr. Bishop at this meeting, and he's actually transitioning to the city of St. Clair. And he told me that the one appointment was, he said that committee has never met in the time that he's been the county administrator, so don't worry about it. And the one that's dealing with economic development is actually a synonym for Lapeer Development Corporation, so it's one and the same. So apparently, I'm not as overloaded as I was afraid I would be. So.
Yeah, as the introduction indicates, that is one of the largest trade corridors, U.S. into Canada in the United States. It's pretty important.
I think we had benefit too with Mike and especially when Oliver, I know Oliver was
It's pretty important. So,
And one of the other side items related to this bond issue is that by law, the I-69 trade corridor can receive 2% of the tax capture for this project that will help them fund future economic development as well. So again, another critical component of this organization having that legal ability to issue bonds. And in reality, there's no risk because the city of St. Clair is offering its full faith and credit to take care of the bonds if there was an issue going forward. So,
economist, and of course, talked to five different economists to get 5 different opinions. But my read is I think trade's going to be picking up. I think economy actually is not going to go into a recession, and things are going to be on an uptick. We'll see. Big difference in gas prices. Boop. I like what am I, 318, 318, 319 a gallon.
7 in Rochester.
Oh, super. Yeah, so that's good news. And so your officers can go on the street now. Do what we have to do. Yeah. So there are positive things happening, which is good. So anybody want to make a motion to give David something else to do? Motion made by Councilmember Glasser, supported by Councilmember Conca, to appoint David Trent as the representative from the Village of Almont to the NMDC I-69 International Trade Corridor. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Objections? Unanimously approved by all council members present. Regular agenda item number 3, Our police chief is requesting that his health insurance coverage with the village be waived, and can let Andy make his presentation with regard to that issue.
Thank you, President Schneider. As I said in my memo, I finally have the opportunity to go on my wife's insurance. Company finally got good insurance. I'm requesting the buyout, same as what our officers receive for the family plan, which would annually save the village for my insurance $13,794.60 a year. So it's kind of win-win for everybody.
Discussion, council? Concerns, whatever? Or do we want to make Andy have health insurance if he doesn't need it?
This is an emotion since everybody's kind of all sitting in each other. I'll make the motion that we approve Andy's buyout for $6,600 for the medical buyout as presented. Second.
Excuse me. Motion by President Pro Tem Dyke, supported by Councilmember Glass. Sorry, Feldman. Pete. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Objections? Unanimously approved by those council members in attendance. So that completes our regular agenda for this evening. Is there any public comment as to non-agenda items? None? Okay, open discussion. County law enforcement millage funds. Who's going to address that issue?
Well, I can tell you what I know.
Sure.
I reached out to Sheriff McKenna to see if he could clarify a few of the questions that I was having. In his email to me, he states that he plans to have the money sent out either the second or third week of January, and it will be the full $110,000. And then thereafter, it'll come every year in January. The leftover money, we're kind of in a unique situation with our contract with Amanda. With her being part-time, there's going to be a pretty good amount of money left over after paying her salary. So I asked him what that money could be spent on, and he states that it should be to enhance the safety of the school, anything that the SRO needs for the school, safety equipment, anything like that. I guess for an example, if there's, let's just say $60,000 left over and the school wants to do a project, if it involves school safety, say filament on the windows so they're non-breakable, we can sit down with the superintendent, and if it's a good idea, then we can relinquish those funds to the school so they can use it for that. What else? I think that's about it as far as what I know. Mr. Trent had reached out to Mr. Zott in reference to some of these questions to see if he would be willing to set up almost like a workshop between the police departments, the superintendents, to go over some more specific things in regards to this money. And I believe Mr. Zott's going to work on that.
So he was going to contact Sheriff McKenna and have that dialogue and open up his facility to host a future meeting if the parties are willing to come to the table. So, but this was kind of a follow-up after having some discussion with Dr. Kalmar, because as you may have noted in the minutes, there was some feedback from our friends on the other side of the building here about not wanting to make their monthly payment. And thanks to our clerk treasurer who pointed out, I forget the term I'm looking for, but she pointed out very nicely that there's a cash flow trickle that comes and that we don't see most of the tax money until the first half of February. And so, the idea that, not knowing, as apparently Sheriff McKenna thinks that the county has extra funds where they can distribute $110,000 to everybody in one fell swoop, when all the tax dollars have not been collected by the various townships to send to the county to cover this millage. And so we'll see if somebody in the treasurer's office at the county objects to the sheriff's distribution plan. But Dr. Kalmar did indicate, as we feel, and even the county administrator suggested a couple months ago, that as far as the village of Almont is concerned, that everybody should contribute to making their monthly payment until the dust settles and the county figures out how they're going to distribute the funds for this law enforcement millage, and help clarify, because there were still a lot of questions in the minds of the school superintendents who felt that they really haven't gotten good feedback on what can these monies be used for over and above the SRO. And so hopefully this joint meeting that takes place hopefully next month would help clarify the air on that. So, but Dr. Kalmar said he'll be making his monthly payment. He totally agrees that we need to do that until all of the millage monies have been obtained.
Who's the gentleman that just got elected to the school board? I think he's a former police officer, if I recall correctly.
Mr. Sinach.
Pardon?
Mr. Sinach.
Yes, yes. And some members of the community, they were promoting his election and indicated that because of his law enforcement background and maybe school safety issues, he had some ideas of what could be done as far as enhancing school safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have the pleasure, and I'm sure people here also had this, where my son was scared to death to send a little 5-year-old boy to school. Said, I don't know. He said, have to worry about that every day. And of course, I grew up at a time when such a thing was never heard of. And talking to one of my clerks had been with me, said, every day I went to school, I had to deal with it. Am I going to get shot today? It's like, wow, that has to do a lot of damage to young people. Young people are very impressionable, and they're still in the development stage at that point in time, and they have to live with that. It's like, it blows my mind. So I only brought it up because it had been mentioned to me, and I don't recall the specifics, that Mr. St. Ange had some ideas as to how safety at school could be enhanced. And I don't know if you've had any contact with him or.
Not with him directly, but was it last, I think it was last spring, we had a safety committee that formed for the school. I was part of that. And we come up with some really good ideas. And actually some of those will be implemented with the millage that they are going to receive. Yes, so.
One good step would be maybe a second SRO.
It would be, but it would be hard to find one under those circumstances that we have Mandy, part-time, no benefits. And in 6 years, if those funds are no longer available, I'd hate to lay somebody off or.
6 years, I mean, I think there's enough funds that you could add. Right now, you have one body covering 3 buildings. She can't be everywhere all the time.
Right.
It's like, some of this has to be on parents too. You got to explain to your kids, you take as much risk driving to school every day, going to the high school, actually more risk. You have a better chance of getting killed in a car accident every single day than getting shot at school. So if you don't treat driving a car the same way, then don't treat going to school the same way. We'd be better with another body there. We have enough funds for 2 people, and the township has township kids there. They can pay their share.
I agree with that. I was going to ask if we could have one in each school.
There's a stagger between middle school and high school are at the same time. So the officer has to pick which one during show up time are they going to be at. Some days you see it when we walk by in the morning through the parking lot. They're at the high school. Some days they're at the middle school. OP is a little later, so you have time to get over there. But I really think, another body. There's a lot of officers that would like. Well, I know it's hard to find officers right now, though. But 6 years is 6 years. Most officers in 6 years are going to want to change roles anyway. They're not going to want to be in the school for 6 years. A couple of years, and they're going to want to get on the road or do something else.
So what would be the mechanics of addressing that issue? Budget-wise, something would have to be generated from the village, and obviously in coordination with Dr. Kalmar and in coordination with the township. There are reasonable positions being put forth, and they probably should be examined. I don't think we decide that tonight by any means, but
It's
The original mechanics would be, if it's an idea, you would get the parties together, Angie, Dave, Paul, Mr. Kalmeyer, and have a open discussion to see the reality of it and to see what can work out, and then have them start working on we probably might need more clarification on these funds before we go that route, but he brings up a good point.
Well, when the sheriff's office was originally doing this, and maybe because I got to see the information a little earlier than most, it was the addition of an SRO, because not all schools have one, right? So the very first thing is anybody who doesn't have one, they can get one. If you already have one and have multiple buildings, then you could add potentially another one. That's why the amount was what it was.
Yeah, but a full-time officer over there the 110,000 wouldn't cover it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We'd be hard pressed to find, which I'm not against it. I'm just saying we can't find full-time people, let alone somebody who will come in for $50,000. It's worth a shot. Yeah, we can certainly take a look at it, but it's going to be tough, and especially to find that right person. That's the key. That's the whole thing, is the right person, and to find them that don't want benefits, and it's going to be tough. That's for sure.
And Dr. Kalmar and the appropriate school officials would have to be persuaded from the points that you raised, Councilmember Feldman, because I asked Dr. Kalmar, is there a need for a second SRO? And he felt at this time, no. They're very pleased with Mandy. She does a great job. He feels that there's value in concentrating on the high school and the middle school. He doesn't see the need for, let's say an extra person that would help facilitate, elementary school. But again, depending on, growth of the district, et cetera, maybe he could be persuaded that there's merit, if the funds are available and the right person can be obtained, But
Tell him.
based on a brief conversation late last week, it was, he didn't feel that he really needed a second SRO.
So the elementary school doesn't need as much protection as the two higher levels. And we could always tell him that Sandy Hook and Uvalde were our imagination. You don't kill little kids. Yeah, that's what calls, because the most
think we need
most
one.
attention.
I think we need one at each school.
Worth the conversation.
And if it's
Yeah.
3 part-timers, will that work in there? Can you get 3 part-timers for,
Well, obviously it depends on their wage, but it's not that, it's finding the right people. I mean, you just can't put somebody over there that'll do it. Or, I mean, honestly, and that's why Mandy is so good at what she does, because she's the right person. Absolutely. And, I wish we could have 5 of them over there, but it's hard to find that right person.
I think, and Tim's suggestion of those essential parties getting together and discussing it. And if the school is not receptive at all, I don't know that we can do it without the school being part of all of this. So if Dr. Kalmer is saying, nah, I don't know if it goes anywhere, but it seems that we should reach out to him and indicate that council is interested in at least discussion, just considering that issue, the SRO issue. So
there's other safety issues that you said came up, that you guys talked about?
Well, not necessarily safety issues, but improvements. Like, the film on the glass, the door locks, things like that can improve the safety.
Your primary?
That'd be all 3 schools.
Okay.
Yeah, everything was for all 3 schools. And I think one of the major ones that's going to be first implicated, and I heard that it's going to go through, is I think they call it the blue box, where it's anybody can activate it for school shooter, for lockdown, and it goes through the audio system of the school. The alerts, we get them as police officers on our phone directly, and every teacher in the school gets it on their phone through the PA system. If alarm goes off in the gym, or if alarm goes off, kids are playing basketball in the gym, you can't hear it. But with this system, it's so everybody can hear it and they know what it's for. And I believe all 3 schools will be done. I think that's the first one that's going to be implemented, which is really, really good.
well, can you pass along to Dr. Kalmar that council is interested in considering the issue and whether he's willing to discuss it? I mean, he blows it off as no one will want to talk about it. Well, I mentioned that would be the end of that. But council's interested in considering the issue.
Sure,
Pass it along to
absolutely.
him?
And I think part of the communique that Chief Martin received from Sheriff McKenna helps clear the air as far as what those additional funds can be used for, because I think there might have been a perception amongst some of the council members that, we would have the liberty to do whatever we want with those extra monies, and per the millage and the direction, as far as what the monies can be used for, we'll have to abide by those guidelines that are tied in with receiving the monies.
Okay, moving on, an open discussion agenda, legal opinion from our village attorney, Mr. Gildner, regarding DDA board and issue of nepotism and whether it applies to DDA board members. So what I can read from our attorney's legal opinion is following the legal trend, which has been prevalent for at least the last 20, 25 years and grows stronger all the time, which is you look at the precise language that's in a statute or ordinance. Our ordinance is or in this case, the charter, and following that precise language, the charter talks about village officials. So I suppose manager, clerk, treasurer, that would apply. And the people who sit on the DDA board are members and not officials, was his interpretation, and therefore does not apply to the DDA board members. So, and from what I understand, an application has been made by a spouse of a council member to the DDA board. I presume that is why the legal opinion was requested. And so he's given us his opinion of it from a legal standpoint, which from a legal standpoint, he's following the law. And, well, I think everybody knows what happened with my daughter-in-law as well. So, discussion. Okay, nobody has anything to say, so we'll just move on.
Against appointments, but at some point we're at, and I dread doing this, at some point we're gonna have to open up the village charter and get some of this language clarified. Because you can, and he's legal, I'm not, and you can play word games all you want, but if you're appointed to an office, you become a member. You're not an officer. An officer is, I don't know, it's an appointed office. We appoint people to that, or the people are appointed to that board either by the DDA or by us, and they're ratified. That's being appointed, correct? That would be my interpretation of it. I'm not a lawyer, but then they become members. Just because we drafted, or somebody drafted a ordinance that calls them members, they're still appointed. At some point,
Yeah, the president.
you got to be appointed to serve. And when you're appointed to serve, then you become a member. You don't become an appointed officer. The appointed officer would be the person that's declaring them a member, correct? That would be my interpretation.
But but your interpretation flies in the face of the actual language of the village charter, which is our constitution, essentially. So,
Right, the charter says, according to this,
Mhm.
that a council member, village man, relative blood member should be disqualified from holding an appointed office. So my interpretation doesn't fly in the face of that, because what I'm saying is if they're holding an appointed office, they've been appointed to the board. They're a member of that board, but they're appointed. So in essence, they're in a position of an appointed office because they're a member of the board. And I'm not arguing that people of relatives shouldn't serve. I'm just trying to follow the rightfulness of the charter. And if we need to change the charter, we need to change the charter. And people can argue my interpretation wrong because obviously the lawyer is, but then he says persons who hold office are called officers or officials, not members. The DDA members are called members. So is the DDA board not considered holding an office, but we're considered holding an office?
Because you're elected.
Yeah. Mhm.
But he didn't say, but he doesn't specify because you're elected.
Right.
So if he would have said that in a legal term, I would have, I mean, I think if we're, I think we need further clarification from the legal team then saying, an appointed office is an elective office, if that's what you're saying.
So,
So.
so we're arguing legal niceties. And I remember when our village charter was amended, good luck putting that back on the ballot. But anyway,
I know,
but
that's why.
just one sec. I objected to this nepotism provision being placed into our charter. And from a broad perspective, of course, it sounds like the right thing to do. But it struck me at the time that this was being presented, and I lost the argument at the time, and it was included in the revision of the village charter, that we're in a small community. It's difficult to get people to volunteer for positions or to actually spend some time giving to the community. And those who do step forward potentially run into this provision. And if you have a member in the family who, let's say, actually serves on the village council, and there's a tendency within families, well, if you're giving to the community, I'll give to the community as well. And the interpretation that you're taking, Tim, is the tendency to cut off people who may actually be willing to serve, which happen to be a very small minority of the community. So I'm more interested in that than.
I'm interested in that too. And don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to family members serving on different boards. But at the same time, we have to be very careful about how that's done, because not maybe in our tenure, but in past 10 years on council, there has been the possibility of people being placed in positions that are of favoritism because of influence or family. And it's our responsibility as a governing body to make sure that we protect that. I would say if we ever do change the charter, that we do maintain that no member of a family can be of an elected official can be employed by the village. I think that because that's a scary thought in itself.
Yeah, that's in our charter. Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm fully opposed to family members not serving. I'm just saying we have to be very careful how we approach that. And the way I'm reading the charter, I don't think it's allowed. I mean, the attorney's obviously saying different, but I don't see any change. I mean, when this comes to council and everybody votes on it, everybody can vote their own way. But as a senior member of this council, I have to voice my opinion of what my interpretation is and why it is. And it has nothing to do with the people that are applying at this time. It's just a protectionary caution for us and for future generations in case people not as responsible get elected, because we've seen that in the past.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, what you just stated can happen regardless whether it's a family member or not, whether there's favoritism within the community, because especially since it is such a small community, and even if it's not a family member, you can have that favoritism play out in a negative way. And it has it in the past, yes, unfortunately. Maybe perhaps I'm off base, but I'm more interested in benefiting the community. And the DDA board now only has 6 members. We'd like to fill the other 3 positions. We have a couple of candidates that could be put on the board. Can't be decided tonight. Yes, I agree. I'm more interested in that. And if council sees the potential for it being an adverse thing to do, not to, for the benefit of the community, then that person should not be appointed by the president to the DDA board. I mean, it's a tough one.
No, it's a tough one, but, and you kind of made my point for me, because if you're saying if council so sees fit and appoints them, then they're going to appoint them. That's if we open the gates. If we don't open the gates, the protection area is already there. But
Do we want it there? That's the question.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Valuable people that could benefit the DDA. And I mean, I feel like there are a few people that could have been on the DDA and, you know, filled the board better. So. And it is a small community. You're both right.
especially with all the problems we just went through with the DDA. And then
Yeah.
if you run into it with an, okay, are you going to let to take that person off the board that's a family member, then you get sticky, you know.
And friends.
Yeah.
It could be sticky. It could be a sticky situation just amongst friends, just like you said.
I think that we're aware of the fact that the DDA treasurer and the former DDA treasurer and the former executive director were rather close, and that had something to do with the resignation of the treasurer, because she was very unhappy how things had gone. And she expressed it to me. I believe she had expressed it to you, Tim. And so that was just a friendship sort of thing, but one that probably shouldn't have existed. And was that a reason to quit? And I passed around this evening to council members a thorough investigation, shall we call it, of mistakes that had been made by the treasurer. And those were issues that were raised by the chairperson. And that, on top of the fact that her friend had essentially been driven out of the DDA, was the reason why she resigned. But our chairperson brought that issue up, and I passed what LDC had given to DDA in terms of, yeah, there were problems, and it was a legitimate issue for the chairperson to raise. It is an unfortunate time, I agree, because it's been all this turmoil, and yes, there's turmoil, and it's unfortunate. So,
Well, to quote the email we got a couple of weeks ago, past is the past. I don't think that's pertinent to this conversation from a standpoint of the nepotism issue. And I've said my piece on it. So I guess the suggestion would be, if anybody else has anything to say tonight, it be said, and then it gets put on the agenda to get addressed at the next meeting.
say so. Yep, I agree. I agree, we're probably not going to agree. But regardless, yes, it does need discussion. And
I'm not saying I'm fully against those appointments. I'm just saying I think we're removing a protectionary caution that was put there for a reason and is very important within the charter. And I'm not sure if I really agree with the interpretation that was presented to us tonight. So
Agreed. Any further discussion from any council members on this issue? Okay, so I'd say David, anything to bring to council?
Yes, just a couple of items. Wanted to let you know from an economic development standpoint, I mentioned this in my village manager's report, that the salary has been sold, even though the applicants that came before the planning commission had not received their approval for a special land use for the building, that they're hoping to expand the number of residential units from 1 to 8. However, they approached Christy Mraz, the owner, and said they wanted to close on the purchase. And so that happened last week. And we actually received confirmation where the assessor got the official transfer of ownership. So it's a done deal. And the applicant and the broker will be present at next month's Planning Commission meeting to try to address the issues that came forward that the Planning Commission had from the public hearing, as well as comments that the PC had as well. On another positive note, one of the items that this council expressed that you would love to see the European Deli filled up. Well, lo and behold, Merry Christmas. Somebody has a signed contract with Mr. Becker and contingent on an appraisal. The financing has already been secured, and sometime next year, if everything comes together, the closing is scheduled for sometime in January. There will be a new coffee shop / bakery in the European Deli. The new owners are chomping at the bit. They're wanting to have their own brick and mortar here in Almont and looking forward to doing business. So hopefully there's no issues that crop up between now and closing that would upend that transaction. But there is a signed purchase agreement and everything is moving forward. So it's taken a long time to try to get people that have expressed an interest in the place to actually meet with the owner. But these people took some initiative and made it happen, and kudos to them. And the European Deli might actually be a thriving locale once again. So, so I'm sorry.
I said, now they just need parking. If it's a coffee shop.
Somehow, and commentary upon women. The only reason this happened is as these purchasers were pushing the issue, and husband kept saying, no, what he's been saying for the last 20 years or so. His wife was present when the purchaser showed up, apparently this resident, and she said, wait a minute, this is a good offer. And she kind of pushed him into, yeah, you're selling the damn place. It's like, so thank you, wife.
Yeah.
Amazing how these things work. It was just, just fortuity, accidental fate.
So yeah, things fell into place for
Amazing.
that transaction to take place.
Well, and that benefits our downtown. So
Absolutely.
it's great.
We have talked about some possible sale of the movie theater and the medical building in the past. There's been 2 offers on the table since the summertime. All of those opportunities have fallen through the cracks. I'm not going to tell you to hold your breath, but there's a strong possibility that sometime after the holidays, there might be a third party that will come to the table and make an offer to purchase on those properties. So 2023 could be an interesting year for the continued transformation of the downtown.
Somebody has, another potential purchaser has come forward. And so that's kind of on the table. Somebody moved the table a little bit, but it's still out there, and potentially involves Rustic Bluebird too. So could be very, very interesting.
See what happens.
And that with opportunities to really enhance the downtown. Okay, all set or anything else?
I just wanted to let you know that the underground storage tank project at the wastewater treatment plant is moving forward, should be completed tomorrow. The tank was put in position yesterday. Larson Company was prepping it to remove the oil from the underground tank to the above ground tank. And I really commend the Larson Company because they got creative with their interaction with the gentleman from the state to get permission to basically modify the process and came up with a way of basically making it 2 projects where they were able to relocate the original design, if you will, of the above ground tank, and get it closer to the building. So basically they're hooking up the new tank and being able to segregate the old tank that's in the ground and actually remove that at some other point in time and not have it impact the generator being able to be activated if there was a power outage. So I commend them for their creativity in that regard. And that part of the project will be done tomorrow, and the generator will be hooked up with an above ground storage tank. So couple quick items regarding grants. As I shared in my manager's report to you last week, we had been advised that there was an announcement forthcoming. We got official notification Friday via email that our grant request for purchasing 605 South Main, the 2.3 acres that the Sherwoods own, was awarded grant monies, and gave you that copy of the email, as well as showing all of the projects that were awarded for land acquisition. We ended up tying for 4th place for the highest number of scores in the land acquisition process. And so I was hoping to get a feedback from the Sherwoods today. They promised me they would give me a call, but I did not get a call, and I tried reaching out to them without success. But we just need to iron that detail out as far as consummating a sale and move forward in that direction. And so it'll be a great expansion opportunity for our Parks Board. I wanted to give you a quick update where we stood on the Spark, the Michigan Spark grant. I had indicated that this past Monday, yesterday, was the deadline to apply. Friday, in consultation with our engineering friends from F&V, Fleece and Vandenbrink, that they had found out that almost 600 applications had been received by the DNR for the first round of $15 million in grant money. And there's a section that amounts to about 20% of the score that deals with financial and social consideration. And this is something where the DNR has access to U.S. Census data and all other kinds of data that the state compiles. And basically, whatever they calculate your score is for that category, that's what you get. And so in light of the fact that there were so many that applied, and because of this unknown factor of where we would end up compared to the friendly competition, we decided we would put a hold on our application, assess the submissions to find out where's the break point from a point total for the first round of awards. As you may recall, the minimum grant that you can request is $100,000 up to a max of $1 million. So I'm just using an arbitrary figure of, let's say the average grant request is $250,000 that gets funded. Well, that means in round 1, 60 projects would get funded to eat up that $15 million. We got 600 applications, and you can apply in round 2 and or round 3. So we're going to queue up to submit in round 2, where we have adequate time to basically figure out how can we get any extra point we can in any other category, because we know we're just going to get whatever the DNR says we're going to get in the financial and social consideration. And there's opportunities for us to get more points, and we need to take advantage of those to make sure that we try to, get the funding if at all possible. So since the next 2 rounds are going to have $25 million available, and again, just using that $250,000 average grant award, that means that there's 100 projects that will get awarded in round 2 and 100 projects in round 3. So that's almost half the field would get some money at the end of this process. So my strategy working with our consultants is, how do we make sure that we're part of that top half so that we get the funding that we're looking for? And we're asking for $300,000. I think we got a great project. I think it's unique. It's just a matter of making sure that we've got the adequate number of points to get awarded. So we're going to see what the field looks like after the points come out next month and work from there. So I just wanted to give you that update that we're holding off on the Spark grant.
Understanding on the Spark grant then for your strategy is you don't want to go to round one with not as much information as you possibly could have, and A, possibly not get anything, or B, get something granted that's not at the level of the money we want. So if you wait to round two, you would have more information to go in, more information, more money to get granted, and have a better ratio of percentage of getting a grant with the amount we want.
In one sense, what you just said is yes, that's true. I think we've got a better opportunity in round two to get awarded, to take advantage of every point we possibly can. And some of those points are related to reaching out to consultant groups. Like, for example, I've got to call in to Shannon at the Doctors of Physical Therapy. I want to consult with her. Is pickleball court something that would be good for some of your clientele? Well, if it is, please give me a letter of support for this project so that you can send people to go play pickleball. So those are the kinds of things that we need to reach out to the various entities that they say, hey, if you can get a letter of support from this group and this type of consultant, et cetera, you get a point for each one of those. Well, as of last week, we didn't have any of those, because people aren't available. They're either heading down south for Christmas already or whatever. So this gives us adequate time to fill in all the blanks, get as many points as we possibly can, and make our best submission. So I just want to give you that update that we're still moving forward. We're just going to do it in round two. And then the last item I wanted to share with you, I had mentioned that possibly we might get a big Christmas present from Uncle Sam. You may have heard that Congress is considering a $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill that they're planning on voting on before they break for Christmas. That vote will either take place Thursday or Friday. And I confirmed with Congresswoman McLean's office today that out of the 15 projects that she had requested for her district, that she was able to get 11 of those buried into the budget request, and ours is one of those. So if this vote on Thursday or Friday is approved, which it looks like it will be, we will be awarded nearly $4 million in grant money for the East and West St. Clair project. So we'll know for sure when we come back after Christmas how Congress voted on that. But I just wanted to let you know that we've been continuing to dialogue with the Congresswoman's office and make sure that our project got some priority. We had her local staff come and visit us so that they knew firsthand what we were trying to accomplish so that they could campaign for us internally on staff. And so we're one of the 11 projects that she was able to get approved for this budget. Now, she will probably vote against it because it's philosophically against her beliefs, where, if you're going to do earmarks, have it as a separate bill instead of burying it in a $1.7 trillion budget. But at the end of the day, if it gets approved, we'll get awarded. I was advised that it may take a few months before we actually get some notification, a contact person from the feds, how the money gets distributed, all that good stuff. So it's not going to happen immediately, but if we get approved, we know it's coming down the pipe at some point.
Ask you that. She actually going to vote for it. Of course she can't, and she can't. So
That's
yeah,
great.
the irony of politics is,
Yeah.
is just amazing.
Yeah, I learned that.
We'll help our community, but she has to vote against us.
Yeah, the same
Okay.
thing happened last year where she voted against, projects that would benefit her community, but it was because of, it being wrapped up in a huge omnibus bill. So
Okay.
that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Presentation. Thank you. Kim, anything to bring to council?
Just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
Question I had, a couple people were curious about the sporting goods store, the old one. They were curious of what was going on with that
I'm sorry, I missed the topic
The
there.
sporting goods store, everyone was kind of asking me if we knew anything about that since they see it's getting remodeled and things of that nature.
It's being remodeled for office purpose use.
Just a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Actually, I've been also being asked about the PNC building.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned Dr. Thomas Barkham of the Almont Veterinary Building that's just south of Dryden Road on M53. He was the winning bidder for that building, and he's in the process of moving some equipment and stuff in there, and eventually it will all be in place and new signage and all that good stuff. So,
Center.
yeah, it'll be a vet center.
A lot of questions. Is it ever going to open again? Is it gone forever?
Nobody knows.
What happened?
Well, it's funny you ask about the huddle. Just by coincidence, I had a conversation yesterday with an individual who has some family ties with the people that own the R&R building that's being remodeled. And this gentleman has some restaurant experience. And his dream was, if they were able to acquire the property next door, that they were going to demolish everything and put in a small plaza and have a new restaurant that he would run. So that was their family dream that he was part of. But it turns out he's got a past connection with the gentleman that owns the Detroit Burger Bar chain. And he's going to take a look at the outside of the building and see if it's something that he might like to try to pursue on his own, and or try to reach out to the gentleman that he has had some past connection with, and see if something might happen. So again, it's going to be, it's a work in progress. Let's just put it that way. And it just started yesterday. So, but yeah, I've tried reaching out to the owner without any success to find out, what's the deal? Are you going to ever do anything with it or not? But maybe if somebody approaches him and says, hey, if you're not going to do anything with it, I'd like to buy it back from you, then maybe something will happen.
It's closed.
They're open today.
They're open today? Oh, okay. I saw all of their signs had taken down. I didn't have a chance to walk by. Okay.
Apparently it has sold, and somebody's planning on maintaining it as a restaurant, if I heard correctly. Is that what you've heard, Kim, through
That's what I
the
heard.
office staff? Yeah. I haven't had a chance to meet the new owner, but apparently it has sold.
Breakfast place type thing. So. Anything else, Pete?
Nope, I'm set.
Tim?
I liked in the DPW update report that the salt shed's done, and it just kind of reminded me that sometimes people wonder the kind of stuff we get done. So salt shed's done. We've been working on the HVAC and all that stuff with the wastewater treatment plant. The new fuel tank is almost done. We've got in the last year and a half, we've paid part of Old Town and the McIntosh sub. The speed signs, people had requested that we have speed signs in town. That's been accomplished. So just like a year in review, I just want to congratulate everybody in here for doing diligence and making all those things happen. So, I mean, if you go from a 50 ton salt shed that's spreading salt on the ground to one that's bringing safety and holding 200 a ton, that's pretty, and accomplishing that in 6 months, that's pretty cool. So and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Jackie?
I just want to wish everybody happy holidays. I'm all set. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we're adjourned.